How did you see Justin doing against the Falcons?
Yeah, I mean, I think big picture's where we have to go. Again, a lot of non-gradable plays, 7 pluses, most of them coming with his just incredible ability to convert the ball with his legs. 2 minuses, but that will change to 3 now that I have new information that he missed a call the second play in the last drive. It was supposed to be a design draw, and he runs it, so that would go to 3 minuses. And then the one double minus, which is the critical error, the interception, the last play of the game. So kind of, I mean, again, we talked about hoping to grade more plays, and this thing ends up being 11 gradable plays. And I thought, the passing game, he did a really nice job when given time getting through his progression. He checked it down. He got to swing routes. He got across the field on a third down. I think hit Claypool in the flat. So the limited drop back throws that he had, he was good on them. There's a couple that he gets sacked that they actually showed end zone replays, and he's being sacked before his guys are at the top of the route. So there's not much you can do about that. But it's an unfair position, and he's got the worst quarterback rating in the last drive of the game in the NFL. And this is the same old story that, he has a chance to put on the Superman cape and go win the game, and they can't do it again. So I think there's a lot of big picture stuff here.
So you sound disappointed in just the 11 gradable plays, which is a lower number than even last week. Luke Getsy, a big topic of conversation today, the designed run at the end, but also just a lot of designed runs when it looked like Atlanta and Dean Pease kind of adjusted to those runs and made life difficult, and Justin was ailing. What'd you think of the play calling yesterday for Getsy?
Yeah, well, I didn't like it. I like him. Please differentiate the two. I really like him. I didn't like yesterday. I think all of us that call plays at whatever level fall into this trap. You get a new shiny toy that you really like, and you spend hours because, if we spend 48 hours game planning in high school, I'm guessing they're spending 60 hours game planning in the NFL. And you eat up you invest a lot. We call it expensive. It's, you invest a lot into the new shiny toy, and the new shiny toy is the quarterback driven run game. Well, then you invest so much of that into game planning that it carries over into your practice plan. You only have so many plays you can script in a week for practice, and you end up wanting to put the stuff in that's really cool, new, sizzly, fun stuff. So you practice that all week, and you forget to run your toss play, 12 times during the week. You only run it 6, and you forget to run your outside zone play and your inside zone play, and you forget to run your counter play, and because you're running quarterback-driven runs. You don't pass, you don't throw it enough. Obviously, we've talked about that last week. They're not throwing it enough in practice. And what happens is this new shiny toy, this new thing hijacks your game plan. You get in the game, and you feel like you have to call it because you practice it so much. And it was obvious. I mean, 18 rushing attempts and 21 passing attempts. Now, I get it. I didn't count exactly, but my guess would be 6 of those rushing attempts or scrambles, maybe a hair less. But still, I mean, that's a lot of quarterback called runs. I saw a tweet, and I don't know who this guy is, so I don't know how credible he is. I don't know who Robert Mays is, but Robert Mays tweeted that he took 20 real hits. That's way too many hits. I would say you don't want your quarterback to hit more than 5 to 8 times a game. So, I didn't like it. I thought it was terrible, actually. And I think Justin suffered from it. He got banged up. I heard it was a shoulder. I don't know that for sure. He's skittish on that last play. And the one thing he hasn't been is skittish. Like, he has not been skittish in the pocket. And he kind of jumps to throw that check down, and it gets picked. And they're in a great position. I mean, just because it's third and medium, I mean, they complete that. They're going to move the chains and have a chance to go run a 2-minute drill and go down and kick the game tire.
I thought there were some times, actually, Trent, where he was skittish in the pocket yesterday, including when he threw it off the back of his right guard's helmet. Kind of seemed like he was having some happy or jumpy feet there in the pocket. And Herbert and Burrow, they had the stat last night on the Sunday Night Football. Herbert and Burrow lead the league in deflected passes. They're 1 and 2. So it's not like if you get passes deflected, you're necessarily bad. But Justin Fields throws a lot of balls into players' helmets. What do you make? What do you think the reason for that is?
Well, I would disagree. I did not think his feet were skittish. I think he dropped his arm angle a couple times to get the ball in the flat, and it worked. You know, he hits the big third down crosser one time, dropping his arm down. A couple weeks ago, he throws an incredible touchdown, dropping his arm angle down and changing it. So you can't celebrate the great ones and then say the bad ones are the worst thing ever. You know, he drops his arm down to try to get the ball in the flat. His hips aren't turned, and the ball comes out low and hits the helmet of the guy. You know, I'm glad you brought up the Mahomes Herbert thing. The other thing that people don't talk about is it's in the last handful of years, it's been a new technique taught a lot by defensive line coaches and linebacker coaches because the ball comes out so much faster. If you look at time to release numbers over the last 10 years, they drop every year because there's so much, you know, line of scrimmage passing, so much quick screen game, so much quick game underneath, so much meshes when receivers are crossing in the middle of the field, multiple receivers crossing. And it's hard to get to the quarterback. So a lot of defensive line coaches, we do it, a lot of people do it, are teaching pressure rush. When the quarterback stops, jump up and try to deflect the ball. So you're going to see more deflected passes because of that. We don't disagree on much. I would disagree with you on the skittish feet. I thought he looked like he was trying really hard to work his progressions. He just didn't have an opportunity sometimes.
Now, it's definitely true some of the times, for sure. That offensive line had a rough day. Michael Schofield, the right guard, had a really rough day. It sure seemed like. Were there any pocket plays where you thought Justin could have been quicker on the trigger? If there's anything we look at in terms of the buckets and the pocket passer buckets, that's the one that comes up a lot. Him holding the ball longer than perhaps he should. Did you see that yesterday?
I didn't, and I looked for it, and I also on two of the sacks, like I mentioned, they actually gave replays where I could see receivers and the route combinations and see if he had like anticipatory throws.
First play of the second half, was that one of them? They did give you that one from behind where you did see the
where it commits to the right, I believe, and there's kind of running everybody's stopping and he's kind of running down the middle of the field. Yeah, that was one of them. No, I mean he looked great in the pocket. It looked like he was trying to be a passer. Now, again, you're talking about such a small sample size. It's going to be really hard to evaluate him as a true passer with 21 passing attempts. I said it last week. I think we got this thing in the low to mid 30s to really have an opportunity to know how his quarterback pocket presence, vision, all these things are developing. They look like they're developing on the handful of plays that we saw. And everybody's going to say he missed a touchdown throw. I get it. I will say this about the miss. He threw it high. He threw it early. When guys throw them high and early, they tend to be more touchdowns than misses. Every quarterback's going to miss a deep ball. It happens. It's tragic when the guy seems to be wide open, but it happens. I mean, it's a ball that's in the air for 50-something yards in the air. It's pretty hard to hit them all. So I like the fact that my quarterback doesn't miss often. He missed one in the game the other night, a little long, and I filmed today with him, and I said, listen, I can live with long misses. Long misses turn into touchdowns. Short, indecisive misses turn into interceptions and all that. But long misses tend to be good misses in the long haul. So it was a negative play. It was a minus, but it's not end of the world stuff.
Actually, Darnell Mooney after the game said that was on him, that he was tired from previous plays and did not run his usual speed. So he put that on himself.
I wasn't going to say that. I wasn't going to give the whole earlier in the year. I talked about the groin facing in instead of vertical, and I could tell half the people didn't know what I was talking about. It seemed when that ball left his hand, and I bet you if you had 15 quarterbacks in a room, any of us that played in the league, and the ball came off a quarterback's hand, I bet you 12 out of the 15 are going to get it right before we ever see the receiver. We're going to know as it comes off the hand whether that's a completion or not, or whether that's a good throw or not. And when that ball came off his hand, I said, that's right. And then it misses by like 4 yards. And I'm like, what happened there? So that does not surprise me.
Trent Dilfer with us, Parkins and Spiegel on The Score. Trent, this is the definition of a talk radio question. I understand that. But what do you think the Bears offense would look like if Trevor Siemian has to play quarterback next week?
tons of run, play action. He'll get destroyed. He'll get his brains beat in. It's amazing how much Justin has poured perfume off of their inability to pass protect and pick up basic things. I like this. I thought Moose, and again, I didn't get all Moose's comment here, but because I was watching the condensed version, but Moose started to talk about how for what they've been given, this offensive line has grown. And I agree with that. I don't want to be the one that's dumping manure on the offensive line, but they're very limited in pass protection. Very, very. I would say as limited as teams that I played for. And I played, I was at one point the most sacked quarterback in the history of the league, I think. They are a box offensive line. They're a square offensive line. They want to play forward. They want to play square. They want to play in the box. As soon as they get moved laterally, they really struggle. And they don't work on pass protection a ton. You can tell by the inability to pick up some basic stunts. The pass rushers get edges on them really easily. This is remedial stuff that we're talking about. And if it's not Justin saving the day or just throwing the ball 3 yards right now, like you could just put in a massive quick game and just get the ball out, so you're not going to score any points doing that. He's going to get killed.
Well, so it's kind of what I thought. And so that leads me to this then, Trent, and I don't have a good answer for this one. Like, if we want to see them have Justin throw the ball more so that Justin can learn to throw the ball more, and, hey, the results of the game don't matter, so let's force chemistry with Mooney. Let's force chemistry with Claypool. But I feel like they're calling the plays that they're calling, yes, partly because it's the new shiny toy that they discovered, like you were talking about earlier, but also it's partly because they don't want to get the franchise quarterback killed because the offensive line is so bad in pass protection. Like the Falcons came into that game with 13 sacks on the season. They had 4 on Fields yesterday, and they hit him 10 times. Like, what can you realistically call a bunch more pass plays with this level of pass protection for Justin Fields? Is it a reasonable ask?
If you do it I think you have to dictate when you throw. You don't want to be throwing on the defense's terms. So I think first down obviously has to become a higher percentage throw down. I think if you just took away some of these ball in the belly of the back first down runs and quarterback runs on first down, turn those into action passes, movement passes. There's a lot of ways to throw the ball. Screens are part of this. Perimeter's part of this. They've done a nice job growing their perimeter game. That's the little stuff they throw out to the receiver and 2 receivers block. I think that becomes part of it. A lot more of that. Short tight end routes. We haven't seen Komet run a lot of sticks and hitches and flats. Old West Coast stuff. If you're old enough, think Brent Jones. He made 7 Pro Bowls catching the ball underneath 10 yards. There's a ways to do it. I would counter your argument or their argument with you ran the dude 18 times, and they're real runs. Like what really bothered me, why I'm a little bit of pissy mood, is some of these were like I thought one of them. I can't remember where I'm looking through my notes. They ran like a quarterback. It wasn't even power. It was like an inside zone to the right early in the game. I'm like, what in the hell is that? And he kind of got hit on it. Like somebody landed on him. There's another time his neck got tweaked when he ran. There's another time he slid, and I thought it should have been a penalty. I mean, if you breathe on Tom Brady, it's a penalty. And Justin goes to slide, and he kind of gets his neck or shoulder hit, and I'm like, that should have been a penalty. Yep. If it's going to be a penalty for everybody else. So, Again, I don't mind the quarterback runs. I'm not contradicting myself from a few weeks ago. I love the quarterback runs if the quarterback has a chance to get on the perimeter, use his athleticism, run out of bounds, slide. But when he's in between the tackles or extended tackles and there's going to be contact, why not just throw it one more time and let him get – you can't really hit quarterbacks that hard anyways in the pocket. So let him get hit in the pocket instead of a runner.
See, that exact thing – is something that we discussed about an hour ago. Because you're right, there ended up being a lot of hits on the designed runs. The first play of the final drive there at the end where he has to go wide to the left and takes a hit on the sideline, and then the second
he lays on the sideline for a little bit.
Yes.
Like you could tell he's hurt.
Right, and then the next play he does run it up the middle, as we know now, by accident, but that's the one where he was hit late and should have been a penalty. I agree with you. So Trent, I want them to throw more. I want them to limit the opportunities to get hit on those runs because they have the guy. Like, go ahead and have the conversation and say, we know you're our guy. Let's use these final 6 games or 5, whatever he plays, for some development. And let's go ahead and throw and shorten the clock. Tell him, is it conceivable that a team could do this? Could say, we want a 3-second clock or whatever it is, and we want you to throw the ball. And even if you don't see it, just trust it and let's learn from it together. We're not going to freak out if you throw interceptions, and you shouldn't freak out too. Can you do that kind of thing, or are you putting him in too much danger by throwing it that way?
Okay, I see what you're saying there. The answer hardly is ever yes or no. It's usually a combination or both. Yeah, I think you can have rhythm routes. Okay, so we call them timing routes, where you get free access, you put the foot in the ground and you throw it, and you anticipate the throw and you throw the guy open. That is definitely doable. If you throw it 30 times, that might be 4 to 6. Okay, so we're not talking about the bulk of the passing game. I actually think what scares the defense the most as they continue to play, and what will make him super, and you can hear Moose get excited about it. Like, listen to some of these guys that are announcing games. They've seen a lot of games, right? You're going to get a Trent Green who knows a lot of football. You're going to get a Mark Sanchez, knows a lot of football. You're going to get a Moose Johnson, knows a lot of football. When they get excited about his ability to extend the pocket play, his ability to make rushers miss, they understand that that's what scares defense the most, because that's when the plasters break down in the secondary. That's when these huge chunk plays come. Mahomes he's the best player in the league because the fear of him doing that and his ability to do those things in big moments. Aaron at his prime was that way. He would extend plays up and under and out, make big plays down the field. I mean, you can go through the history, John Elway, you can go through the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and one of the pelts on the wall that they all have is their ability to extend a pass play and crush the defense because their athleticism and that ability to do so. You throw it more, you're going to give them more opportunities to do that. I think that's where the magic's going to happen. And then, yes, you have the ability on 3rd and 4 to force them into a handful of defenses because they're so scared of him running the ball. Design runs. I would say this too, the other thing too, and Montgomery had 17 carries for 67 yards, Ebner 6 for 8. The second half, their base run game didn't work very well. Your base run game is going to work better if you're throwing it more. You're going to get more plays. You're going to get more first downs in the middle of the field. You're going to loosen up the defense. You're going to get too high shells. Like, you're going to get defensive linemen rushing the passer instead of creating a wall at the line of scrimmage. So, balance is the key to any good offense. And they're abnormally unbalanced. And
yeah, historically.
Yeah, and I think that's an issue. And maybe it's just that simple. Maybe it's just a simple, let's dumb this down, because sometimes dumbing it down is the easiest way to do it. Let's seek balance. And with balance, we'll find out more about our offense. But we're so tilted one direction, we're just trying to pour perfume on a stinky sandwich, and you're not growing from this.
The last thing, Trent, and I know we have you study Justin Fields, but the Bears gave up what at this point would be the 35th pick in the draft, because they're picking 3rd if it ended today, for Chase Claypool. And he's only got this year and next under contract, and he's got a handful of catches. I think it's 5 catches in 3 games. But the apologist or the explanation is it takes a long time for a receiver to learn an offense and come over midstream.
Not this offense. Listen, I could learn this offense in 24 hours.
Okay.
The passing game.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Like, should we be concerned that if you can learn it in 24 hours, let's say you're of above average football intelligence, like Claypool should have it down at this point? He should be more involved than he's been?
Yes. And yes. And I like Pringle as a blocker.
They're all blockers. St. Brown's a blocker.
St. Brown, yeah. One thing, you're not going to be able to attract anybody. You're going to have to draft them, because you're not going to get a free agent when you're tilted this one direction run pass, because they all want to go where they're going to get fed the rock and make Pro Bowls and get their incentives, as they should. You won't be able to sell the quarterback's going to be a great player, because any agent and free agent is going to be like, no, the proof's in the pudding. You guys ran it 66% of the time. I ain't going there. I didn't sign up to be a tight end, right? So
Yeah,
you're gonna have that issue. And yeah, I think, I don't know what you have in Claypool because you don't throw it enough. Right. And then the ones you're really trying to throw, and I don't blame him. I design every play for Mooney as well. I think the kid's special. I think he's the next McLaurin. You know what I mean? The kid at Washington that came out of nowhere has become one of the best players in the league. I think Mooney could be as good as anybody. Komet's awesome. Like we saw the one-hand catch, by the way, that's the best catch of the year. That's better. I think it's better than the Jefferson catch because how he got hit in the hip and still held on to it. Not better than Jefferson, but equal to Jefferson's catch. So you have two really good players. Why not try to develop another one? The backs are good receivers. That's another thing. We're talking about throwing the ball. You can throw the ball to the backs. Like there's no rule against, Bill Walsh did a pretty good job throwing the ball to Roger Craig 100 times a year. Like you can get the ball out quick and throw the ball to the back. Like there's a lot of things you can do in the passing game that basically are runs that protect a bad offensive line. So, again, I don't want to be the one that's just pouring on Getsy. I think he's really good. I think he's going to be phenomenal. But at some point, the head coach has to say, bro, just quit worrying about all these design runs. Go up there on a Monday and be like, I want to see triple the catalog in passing. I want to see it throwing twice as much in practice, and I want more than 30 throws in the game. And we'll deal with the rest.
Great stuff, Trent Dilfer. Congrats on the state final game. Sorry that you got a little pissed off watching this film this week. We could hear it in your voice. There was an edge.
Yeah.
You excited to break down Trevor Siemian against the Jets next week?
Is he not? Justin will play, right?
We don't know. They said he's day to day, but because Matt Eberflus is like you with your team and he's kind of a Belichickian with injuries, he wouldn't rule out that it could be season ending. He won't tell us till Wednesday.
I don't know if you saw the post game, Trent. Like Justin was beaten up and battered and down. Like it's okay to give him a week if he needs a week. In my opinion.
But there's that's another subject. We can talk about this next week if it is Siemian because we want to talk about that. I like Trevor. I'm not saying he's a bad player. It's just it's not a good fit. I do think there's something today, and any old crotchety quarterback that's listening is going to be, hell yeah, Dilfer, tell him. There's still a badge of honor of playing hurt as a quarterback because the rest of your team does. Everybody on that team is banged up. And some reason when the quarterback gets a shoulder, it's like, holy crap, let's sit him. He's worth $8 billion. We can't play him if he's got a boo-boo. And I think quarterbacks should play unless they're dying. Like literally, unless you're about to die, you should play. And I'll say this, my career very average. No person's ever heard me brag about my career. I'll brag about this. Every teammate I ever played with will stand up and say, that was a tough son of a gun. And he was with us and he put himself in front of it, behind everybody else and said, he's going to do whatever he can to win. Because I played with a million injuries because that's the way I was brought up. And you gain the respect of your locker room in such an intense way when you play at the same stuff that they play with every week and you don't get treated any differently. So if he's got an AC joint, put on your big boy pants and play. Unless he's got a torn labrum, which, by the way, if it's his off shoulder, you can still play with that. You can play with pretty much anything that isn't going to make you die. And I think that should be the philosophy going into this game is this guy's going to be our dude. Then you're going to strap it up and you're going to go play football, and we're expecting you to play well. Because, by the way, you've got boo-boos, you still should play well.